1.
Still on page 65, we're going to do number 2, and again, we're going to want to make sure that you write fairly small. So the directions still say find all 3 trig ratios for the given angles. So again, you cannot find a trig ratio of the right angle. So I'm just going to cross out Z here. Your hypotenuse is always across from your right angle, so the hypotenuse will never change. So this 15 is going to get an H, because that will always be the hypotenuse, no matter which angle you are finding the trig ratios of. I'm going to do X first. So sine X equals, and again, you have to memorize these trig functions. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if we're looking at angle X, I'm going to circle it. I'm going to go on the other side of the triangle. So on the other side is your opposite side. Whatever's left is your adjacent. That's based on the angle that you're using. So for sine of X, we are going to put opposite over hypotenuse. So 9 over 15. And then you need to reduce that. So they're both divisible by 3. Leaves me with 3 over 5. Now we're going to do cosine of X. So cosine X equals, cosine uses the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. The adjacent side is labeled 12. The hypotenuse is still going to be 15. These are both divisible by 3, leaves me with 4 over 5. The last one is tangent of X. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Our opposite side is labeled 9. Our adjacent side is labeled 12. Reduce that, you get 3 over 4. Notice none of these should be the same. So for one angle, your sine, your cosine, and your tangent are 2 different ratios, because they use 3 different ratios, They use 3 different sets of sides. Now we're going to do sine, cosine, and tangent of angle Y. So sine Y equals. Now we have to go through and relabel the triangle for sine. And usually what I do is I don't erase the stuff I already have, I just rewrite over it. So for angle Y, which is here, opposite is going to be 12. Hypotenuse is not going to change. Adjacent means next to, so this 9 becomes the adjacent side. So sine of angle Y is opposite over adjacent. The opposite side is now 12. The hypotenuse is 15. That reduces to be 4 5. Cosine of angle Y For cosine of angle Y, it's the adjacent side. Adjacent to Y is now 9. Hypotenuse is still 15. Leaves you with 3 over 5. Tangent of angle Y is opposite over adjacent. So from angle Y, your opposite is 12. Your adjacent is 9. Reduces to 3 over 4. I'm sorry, not 3 over 4, 4 over 3. So you, again, should have 3 different ratios if you're dealing with the same angle. And what you should notice is that the sine of one angle is the cosine of the other. So the sine of angle X is the cosine of angle Y. The cosine of angle X is the sine of angle Y. That's the big thing here. The cosine of one angle is the sine of the other, and vice versa. Okay, last one, number 3. So again, you cannot find a trig ratio of the right angle. So I'm going to cross out the n, because we're not going to use it, and label the hypotenuse. And the first angle that we are going to deal with is angle M. So we're going to find the sine of angle M, the cosine of angle M, and the tangent of angle. So from M, I'm going to label the opposite side. It's on the other side of the triangle. Adjacent means next to it. So next to M is either 29 or 21. The 29 is already labeled H, so that means the adjacent is 21. Sine, again, you have to know what all of these three trig ratios are. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So sine of M is the opposite side, which is 20, over the hypotenuse, 29. 20 over 29 does not reduce, so that's your answer. So sometimes the ratios will not reduce, and that's okay. Then that's just your answer. If it reduces, then you have to reduce it. Cosine M, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 21 over 29. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. The opposite side is labeled 20. The adjacent side is labeled 21. Now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to do the sine of angle P. We're going to do the cosine of P, and we're going to do the tangent of P. So like I've said previously, the sine of one angle is the cosine of the other. So if you know that the sine of M is 20 over 29, then the cosine of P is 20 over 29. And I'll show that to you here. Cosine P, the opposite side is now 21, and the adjacent side is 20. So for angle P, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is 20, hypotenuse is still 29. For sine of P is the same thing as the cosine of M. So you don't even have to recalculate it if you don't want to. 21 over 29. And we'll show you here. For sine, it's opposite, and from angle P, the opposite side is 21. The hypotenuse is still 29. For tangent, you just flip the tangent you already have. So it's 21 over 20. So on page 65 on that handout, that's number 2 and number 3. So make sure you have everything filled out to get full credit for your notes.